What's an Oshi moment where you realized you've been doing something the wrong way for years? I owned a light blue colored microwave for about 3 years that a family member gave me for a housewarming gift. Thought it was cool, never saw a blue microwave before. One night, a buddy asked why I never took the blue plastic wrap off my microwave, then proceeded to peel it off for me. Damn, that bitch is silver. Still miss my blue microwave sometimes though. My parents did this too. In-laws did this. Just built their forever home and called to say it's amazing, but our dishwasher is blue. What are you sure it's not covered in a protective wrapper? Calvin, when you're a kid, you don't have much variety of experience. You live with your parents and that's all you know. You grow up thinking whatever they do is normal. Dad walks in, what a day. Up at 6 o'clock, a 10-mile run in the sleet, and now a big bowl of plain oatmeal in my blue microwave. How I love the crazy hedonism of weekends. Calvin, well, maybe normal is too strong a word. Hobbs, I think we'd know normal if we saw it. After moving to a new city, I went to the laundromat and the Korean lady working was yelling at me about something I couldn't understand. After some pantomime it became clear that she was upset I was putting in the wrong detergent, but it was the same kind I have been using for 8 years since moving away to college and behind. Turns out I've been washing my clothes with only fabric softener for nearly a decade. They always smelled good, so I never really thought about it. Not my proudest moment. My family always had a cup next to the bathroom sink in case you needed to rinse your mouth after brushing your teeth or maybe get a quick drink of water in the middle of the night. My grandma had the same cup at her house. I used it for years whenever I was thirsty. One day she saw me doing this and said, "Don't use that cup. That's where grandma puts her teeth." Work. One time me and my little cousin were brushing our teeth at the same time at my grandma's. She had to have been maybe 7-ish and grabbed the pink cup and took a sip before I could stop her, and the dentures came at her and her eyes got so big she just put the cup back and left the bathroom. Edit. Wow, thanks for the silver. I'm gonna tell her that the fake teeth coming for her has given me so many internet points, although she probably doesn't even remember. Cork guns. Everyone says that you're supposed to pull it towards you, but I saw a Reddit comment saying that they're designed to be pushed away instead. My boss looks at me funny for doing it, but it's exponentially cleaner and tighter. Edit. Quite a few of you are mentioning that you're unclear on what you're pushing away. When you cork, you slide the entire gun across the crack that you're sealing. So it's that. You can only ever slide it towards you or away from you, unless you're going sideways, I guess. And most people pull the entire gun and tip towards them, whereas sliding it in the other direction works too. A few of y'all sound like you know exactly what you're doing, and have added a couple other tips on how to do it cleaner and better too, so thanks for that. If you pull as you go, it's a struggle not to pull the cork out of the groove. By pushing, you keep the cork snugly where it belongs. Jiggity. I've never had a problem with pulling it out. Jiggity. Painted houses for the better part of 10 years. Pushing it in front would probably be massively uncomfortable for me, lol. Not mine, but my dad has been spelling his name wrong his whole life. He's 51. His name is Jeffrey, and he's been spelling it like that since he learned how to spell his name. A few months ago my mom pulled out his birth certificate, and we all learned it's actually spelled Jeffrey. Not sure if he spells it correctly now, but it was definitely an Oshi moment for him. Grandfather thought his name was Harvey his whole life. Got his birth certificate at 65 and it's Harmon. My aunt and uncle gave my grandmother a copy of her birth certificate for her birthday. Apparently she had never had one. On her 77th birthday, she found out she was actually 78. Now I'm having a crisis. My dad's name is Jeff, but I have no idea if it's Jeffrey or Jeffrey. Edit. It's Jeffrey. I asked his GF I didn't want to admit I'd known the man for 30 years and didn't know how to spell his name. My wife and I have this ceiling fan/light in our bedroom in the house we moved into 2 years ago. It has a remote control for the fan and lights. About a year and a half ago the lights suddenly stopped working. The fan works well, and we didn't have a ton of money, so we've just lived with lamps in the room, always being frustrated with how damn dark it is. I was scrolling some other thread on AskReddit TIFF a few weeks ago, and the top post was a guy talking about how his lights stopped working years ago, and then he found out that it was just dimmed, which you do by holding down the button on the remote. It sounded so much like our fan I went and tried it. Dimmed? Oh gosh. I remember reading that post too. If this happens I hope I remember to check that first. Living in a foreign country where I was actively learning the language. Social cues go a long way when learning a language on the spot. That being said, someone once said a phrase to me while serving a hot dish, which I assumed as meaning excuse me. After going through crowds and lines, replicating the same phrase in an attempt to be respectful of those around me, I abruptly found out that the phrase actually meant enjoy. Hindsight completely makes sense. The odd looks I would get by saying enjoy while squeezing past people all of a sudden made sense. Edit. Wowzers, you'll really know how to make a grown man blush. Thanks for the gold and silver you beautiful strangers. I'm glad my mistakes bring such enjoyment and hilarity to the world. So this happened while I was living in Vietnam. The phrase was in me. It was even more deceiving because it was similar to the phrase for sorry which is Zinly that was year 1. The following 3 years were full of similar mistakes. Tonal languages are tough. Part of me was hoping you've been announcing that you're a hot dish while passing by people for all these years. Hot dish. Coming through. Hot dish. Not cause I've been doing something wrong my entire life, but saw it wrong. I'm colorblind and my entire life I thought peanut butter was green until I turned 19. And when I found out it was brown my mind was blown. It took so long because no one really talks about the color of things like that. When I was in high school I was talking to a colorblind friend asking the usual dumb questions, like what color is a green light when you're driving, and he said he knows which light is which, even though they all look gray. So I said, oh so Yoda is gray to you then? His horrified expression as he yelled, Yoda is green, was priceless. Till Yoda is green. For years I would struggle to take the cap off new deodorant, the one under the lid. It always is so stuck down onto the deodorant stick. I had an aha moment a year or so ago that I could simply crank the deodorant stick up until the cap could easily be removed. I'm 34. It took me until age 34 to realize this. Oh, well. This makes all the sense in the world when you see it spelled out like that. All this time I've been biting on the little nubbin that protrudes from the plastic and pulling it off, like pulling the pin on a powder fresh hand grenade. I'm 38. Got you beat. I'm 71. Just opened a new deodorant last week with my teeth. Duh. Till. Huh. When I first got a debit card and would go out to eat at restaurants with my friends, I would leave a cash tip on the table. When I got the receipt to put how much I was paying, I would write down how much money I left on the table. For at least 6 months I gave double tips to every waitress I had. I did this to a pizza guy once. I gave him a cash tip, and when he gave me the receipt to sign I put down how much cash tip I gave him. He told me, whoa, you're giving me more. I was like, is that not how it works? He said he'd correct it for me once he got back to the store. I felt pretty embarrassed. I have a flashlight that I've had for near a decade. I originally got it because it really looks like a lightsaber and it was cheap. Plus you could twist the lens around to focus it, or so I thought. When I got it home and put batteries in it, I found out that twisting the top didn't change the focus. I assumed the top being able to twist was just a result of it being cheap. Fast forward to a month or so ago, a storm picked up during the night, so I went out to check nothing was going to blow away. As I was trying to open the gate, the flashlight slipped, and I caught it by the top part that twists, but the rest of the flashlight slid about 2 inches down from the twisty part, and it turns out, if you pull the top part up, it turns it into a lantern type thing for lighting up an area. It's nothing big, but there have been times where it would have been incredibly useful to be able to put the torch down and light up a wide area. Edit. Okay, so I didn't expect this, but here are some pictures, seeing as so many people are interested. And no, it's not a flashlight. My mom refused to show me how to use a tampon because she thought I should stick to pads because they were safer. This was back when googling how to do things wasn't an option, and I was the first in my friend group to get my period and a little sheepish about it. So basically I was shoving that sucker up there with the entire applicator for like 2 years, wondering why tampons didn't seem to work that well for me. It wasn't until I was in high school and one of my friends went on a crusade against plastic waste and started advocating for tampons with no applicators that all of a sudden I realized I had massively fucked up. Edit. My highest rated comment ever, and my first silver, and it's about how I was too dumb to figure out how to use a tampon in middle school. At least I've realized I'm not alone, as well as learned that a lot of people seem to read instructions before sticking foreign objects inside their bodies. Weird. Also, lay off my mom. That you do, in fact, need to disassemble your laundry dryer and clean the lint out from underneath the drum once per year. I'm 31 and never knew this. No one ever said anything. Never saw anyone do this. Crappiest thing is that my parents also learned this the hard way and never bothered to give me a tip when I bought my first dryer. Luckily, the wife and I discovered the lint build up when changing the rollers. I said to my parents, wow, it really builds up in there, and they were like, oh yeah, you need to do that like once a year. We're at. Oh my. I just found the thing I didn't know either. My dryer has been taking longer to dry lately and now I'm thinking that might be why. So I had always assumed that gas stations had pipes that led to a nearby oil plant or something. I live in Houston, so during Hurricane Harvey in 2017 there was so much news about the gas stations being empty because they weren't being filled. I was in the car with my sisters and we were talking about it, and I mentioned I don't understand how the gas supply was limited when the pipes are underground and not affected by the flooding. They both looked at me with the most confused faces ever, and one of them said, you do know that trucks come to fill up gas stations, right? And I was completely shook by this and had no idea, and they asked me, so when you see the big trucks at little gas stations in the city with the tubes in the ground, what do you think they were doing? And I replied, filling up their gas. Not something I did wrong, but definitely something I thought wrong for 17 years.